People will make any excuse in the world to avoid just saying hi. On the other side of hi is all the glory. The kind of adventures that you could have, the kind of money that you could make. Stop being so focused on what you're gonna lose and focus more on what the amazing things that happen on the other side of that process.
Owen Cook is the world's #1 social skills expert. He's the founder of Self Mastery Co. And for 22 years, he's pressure tested every tactic in real life coaching 400,000 men across 70 countries, leading 1,000 plus live trainings a year and racking up millions of online views.
If you're an ugly guy and you want to date a girl who's very beautiful, don't rate yourself based on your looks. Instead, put things like sense of humor or having fun or good vibes. Make that more important in your reality. Have so much conviction that that stuff is cool that people that are around you start to feel like they're not cool.
Let's say I'm completely fed up with where I am in my life. The results I'm getting, I'm stagnant. I can't hold a relationship, but I'm really ready now. Give us the blueprint.
Okay, the first thing I'd say, and I genuinely mean this, is
Owen Cook, you have been in this game for probably one of the longest people in the space of self-development, communication, specifically working with men, leveling up their lives. You've worked with thousands and thousands of dudes all around the world, helping them increase their influence, overcome anxiety, get over stress, grow their income, grow their businesses. For someone who's just stumbling across you right now, can you give us the quick highlight reel of what has the last couple decades for you now been, and who are you, just so they can sort of understand exactly what you do?
Okay, so I have a very, very, very hardcore approach to all of this. So for me, it's very results driven, okay? So the way that I think about it is like, I will do anything to get the result for the client. So whenever I'm thinking of creating a teaching, I'm thinking to myself, how do we backwards engineer the best possible way of teaching it that I can physically think of, okay? So for us with social anxiety, for example, let's say that you were to design the best way to teach someone how to beat social anxiety imaginable. Well, you wouldn't just teach that by talking in a seminar room or even just on a podcast here, although this could alert them to where someone could do. You're gonna take someone out into the public. You're gonna take them to a social gathering. You're gonna get them talking to every single person there. You're gonna show them how to do it. So in other words, I have to show people how to go into like a public environment and take over the whole club. Like you ever seen the movie like The Wedding Crash or something like that?
Yeah.
Like basically like, or like the movie like The Hangover, right? Like all that, right? So I've got to go in there and just completely take it over, have fun with everybody, be the life of the party, but then not just show me doing it, I'm going to get my client doing it as well, okay? So the job's not done until they're also doing it. Then I'm going to teach public speaking, and I'm going to show public speaking, and then I'm going to bring the people that I'm working with up, and then I'm going to get them doing public speaking. There's videos with even my 11-year-old son running an entire event. I just did that during some bonus time, obviously not as a paid event. But the way that I see it is that I don't want to be defined by what I'm able to do, although I'll show exactly how to do it. I want to be defined by the results that I can produce for another person. So my ego is based on, can I get another person to get out of their shell, to become super confident, public speaker, extremely social, to learn about how to use that to build a personal brand and make a lot of cash, and how to get over their inner issues. Now, for me, that's the result that I'm looking to produce, and going to any length possible to get that for people, and just thinking like, what's the most extreme version of a way that I can help somebody transform. My background is I grew up lightly autistic, so probably somewhere on the spectrum, like I guess what you'd call Asperger's. I probably have a little bit of that now, which will always become apparent in my conversations. And basically extremely cripplingly shy, massive amounts of social anxiety. I don't want to say suicidally depressed lightly, but honestly, I was like depressed to the point that I really didn't see a reason to go on because I hated my life so much. So glad I never did that. I've known people that have done that. And basically just confused and lost. And so I made a decision to actually get better socially and just to work systematically on social skills, communication skills, areas that plagued me and tortured me for many, many years. But it was also that I saw other people being tortured by it. So for me, it was sort of like a holy mission from God to understand that and to teach it. So I spent the bulk of my adult life. I probably teach about 150 days a year. I spend teaching live in the real world. So that could be doing seminars and getting other people doing public speaking, but it could also be out in public gatherings and actually getting into conversations and working on communication skills with other people in public. So I don't just get to give a little tip and say, oh, here's what you should do. It's like, I've got to actually demonstrate it, and I've got to prove the results, and then I've got to get other people doing what I could do. So what I say again is like, just because I brought you to show you that I could do it, I've got to get you doing it. So you could imagine, for me, the average speaker who is, maybe bringing somebody up on stage and kind of, showing them some different things, like, for me, that would be the easiest way of teaching humanly possible, because I don't have to put my kind of guarantee on the line that I can get them doing it. But taking somebody who's exceedingly shy and getting them within 3 or 4 days to not just a decent level, but to an elite level. We've just spent decades studying this area, like just studying it and fine combing it top to bottom, understanding the psychology, understanding the different subcommunication and the ways that they're coming across, and things like the person's niche market and different things like that. And we've just been obsessed with that.
So this whole conversation is going to be completely diving into this. So for the people listening, watching, stay around, because communication is something I've become extremely obsessed about as well, because it's very transferable to everything. The guy that's trying to get the girl, the guy that's just trying to network, the CEO who wants to close that deal. It's very transferable. Before we do fully dive into it, so you skimmed across your story, right? You've grown up battling with crippling anxiety and Asperger's and all this stuff. Like that's like the recipe for somebody who doesn't end up teaching what you teach, right? So what were, if you can remember, even like the starting moments for you? Like how did you sort of make that leap, going from someone who I would assume would be the last person I'd pick out of a lineup who would want to walk into a nightclub and talk to all these strangers, to now being able to do that? Like where did that start?
I would say that it's a huge advantage to be coming from a place of extreme pain, because it's like Tony Robbins says, the enemy, the best is the good. So anybody who's okay socially is actually at a disadvantage. Anyone who is, in some cases at least, very good looking is actually at a disadvantage. A rich person is at a disadvantage because they may not have potentially as much incentive to get good at this. Yeah, there's not as much pain. Like pain is the driver for action, right? Pain exists for a reason. And pain, when taken badly, like they say, you can get better or bitter. So pain, when taken badly, just causes you to get very, very bitter and go into victim. But pain taken constructively is going to be the impetus of huge, huge, huge transformation. So what I've done is I took the extreme levels of pain, and that was able to drive me to want to fix the problem. And when I eventually did fix the problem, and for me, it's a never-ending art form, by the way. So I never want to be on here saying like, I fixed the problem. Like I've been obsessed with this topic for over 2 decades. Every single day of my life, I'm understanding this problem better. I'm a lifelong learner. So it's a permanent student mentality. Okay. And I'm looking to falsify every single thing that I know. Like if I were to find out today that everything that I knew was wrong, I would just make a video. Everything I knew was wrong, guys, and here's the better way. Like I'm always looking for a better way. I have no ego about that. So what I would say is that back in the day, coming from that place of pain, pretty much for me, it's funny. There was actually a video that I reposted, and it was by this girl that was just kind of imitating what regular conversation looks like. So I'm going to kind of play that here. The video is just a girl kind of looking like strangely, but this is the sound of the video. Okay, so you'll kind of hear it here.
Hi. And how are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
Yes.
Some weather we're having. Huh?
Oh, it was nice, and the birds.
And animals. I beautiful. It's the dogs in the sky.
Yes, it's just the... Yes, how are you?
Good, and it's good.
How was the family?
So good.
So that's
How do we listen to?
Yeah. So what it says what neurotypical small talk sounds like to neurodivergent folk, right? So that's what social interaction sounded like to me. Like I wanted to go deeper, more logical, more nerdy. Like that's what I'm interested in. But I would see the way that people are talking, and there was these things like body language or vocal tone or sarcasm or humor, things that for me just didn't really serve a function. I didn't have any concept of what any of that meant. In social dynamics, we talk about things like the underlying frames of an interaction. Who's the buyer, who's the seller, who's the more dominant one, who's the more submissive one, things like that. And, so it took me decades to even be able to zone in on that. But because I didn't understand it, you could imagine me, basically what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to literally talk to people for about 4 or 5 hours a day. Like I'm just going to spend...
So you just dive straight into the thing that was hardest and scariest.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other way to fix it, right? Like you have to go talk to people for 5 hours a day.
Because I was going to ask you that actually, because you were saying that you would take people and take them straight into, like, you're like, okay, let's go out and let's forget to talk to every single person, which you're taking someone who's coming to you because they're like, I'm shy, I don't know how to talk. You're like, let's go to the hardest thing. You don't like sharks? Let's jump in with sharks. And how, I guess, I don't want to say how effective is it, because obviously you do it for a reason, But what's the responsiveness to that to sort of take something from, it's like 0 to 100 straight away? I would have thought, let's start with talking to 1, or what's the responsiveness you get with that?
I like people like Jay Shetty, Lewis Howes, and others that I kind of put them in the category of what they call a comfort creator. So you might watch them to feel more comfort, right? It's like, like life is good, like keep a positive attitude, stuff like that, gives hope. And so I think somebody who is not as results driven as I am can gain comfort from that. And it can be something that helps them to become a little bit more emotionally stable. I'm almost more like a discomfort creator. So in other words, like if your leg is broken, I'm not looking to massage the broken bone. I'm just going to kick it back in place and try to set the thing, eventually get it healed, and then start putting some weight on it, start putting muscle on it. Like, so people come to me when they're ready to just fix the problem. Like, do you just want to fix the problem? Like, do you want this thing that's been bothering you for 20 years to be fixed in 3 or 4 days? Well, what would be the most effective way to do that? And then I just want to do that. So I think that it's people that are kind of sick of their current results, and like they don't need encouragement, they don't need a hug, they don't need to be told they're awesome. Like they just want it fixed. Chris Williamson, he talks about this. He says a lot of time for women, and all women are different, so you can't put all women in one box. But I would say for a lot of women, speaking well to each other, affirming each other can actually help to, kind of raise their vibe. And as they raise their vibe, they kind of just manifest a bit of a better reality. I think for some guys, like, we just need money, bro. Like, we just need results, bro. Like you could tell a guy, like, you're awesome, and like, give me a hug. But like at a certain point, it's like, well, I got a hug, I'm told I'm awesome, but I don't have results. Like, I just want money, bro.
We need the evidence.
I just want better social results, bro. Like, I want a girlfriend, bro. Like, I don't care about this anymore. Like, let's just fix it. So eventually, I think as guys have like, probably initially gone for comfort, they eventually say, like, I don't really care about comfort. I just want the result. Now, ironically, to get that result is oftentimes actually raising your vibe. It actually is about enjoying the process. There's a lot of Zen philosophy in there about, not needing something and just, being more in the moment. But the point is that we can begin to teach that with that end result in mind of being results oriented.
You know what I found very, very interesting? That 97.8% of you that listen and view this podcast haven't yet subscribed. Now, if you're looking for the one way that you can actually help us build this show into something that's going to be absolutely incredible and life-changing for you, the one thing you can do is to hit that subscribe button, because it takes a lot of time, effort, and money that we put into this podcast to make it what it is. And we've made it very clear that we never want to run ads or sponsors or anything like that on this show. So the only way that we can actually grow this channel is by subscribers. And I promise to you that if you hit that subscribe button and you help this show grow, then I'm going to continually keep bringing more, bigger, and better guests to teach you the skill set and the mindset that you wish you learned earlier in life. So please, it'll mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and do that right now. Now let's get into this episode.
So you talk about frames, and there was another word you said before, I forget, it was something?
Subcommunication.
Subcommunication. Yes. Walk us through this. So I want to sort of understand these things, because you're talking about these are the things you start to understand, and explain to the person who's like, what are frames? How do I use frames? Why are they useful? And subcommunication, what are these things that are happening that I'm not sure about?
Okay, so at the surface, what you're seeing is kind of like that little funny meme that we showed here, right? Which is like, hey, oh, the dogs, this guy, yeah. Right, like that's the kind of surface level conversation. So that would be surface conversation. Subcommunication is the communication that's going on beneath the surface, right? So if you are, like, for example, I've done over $100 million in sales at this point, right? Again, results oriented. I learned about communication, use that for sales. So I didn't pocket $100 million, but I've driven that through the pipes. I've actually probably driven a couple $100 million through the pipes, just never calculated it all. So when you look at sales, right, you might watch me go to the front of a room, and what you see is me do a quick speech, and then I say, hey, if anyone wants to jump onto a training, go to the back. And then you watch the whole room full of people stampede the back and like elbow each other in the face, almost like, to sign up, right? And it's like, well, how do you do that? He just did a speech, right? But there's thousands of little elements underneath the surface of the communication, which is the subcommunication, which compels people to want to make a purchase, right? Or let's say that we go to a bar club and we're chatting people, and say that you're networking and you're just having a regular conversation, which on the surface looks normal, but then that guy that you want to network with is like, dude, we got to hang out again. Like, we have to meet up. And they're like wanting to meet up. Or maybe that girl that you're talking to is like grabbing at you and grabbing your face and trying to kiss you. And you're like, what, this like completely average kind of quirky, nerdy guy has this girl like trying to kiss him. Like, what did he do? Like he just talked to her. Like, what's going on? And I mean, you can even do it where you don't even talk at all. Like, you could just walk up and not even talk at all. And just by the energy and the vibe, and you can actually have attraction just from doing that. So that is an understanding of the communication that's beneath the surface. So that could be things like vocal tone, vocal projection, pitch. And by the way, I don't have a super deep voice, but you don't have to. A lot of people think like, oh, I have to talk like this now, and you don't. That's a misnomer. I can disprove that if we go out in 2 seconds flat. Also, things like in your body language, like do you take up space? Is it loose? Is it tense?
Yeah, talk to us about this, because I know body language is actually one of the biggest communicators. Like we break it down as like body language, tonality, language. Language is the smallest, tonality is bigger than language alone, but body language is our biggest non-verbal communicator. How are people doing this wrong? Like how do we, because I'll even notice it myself sometimes. Like if I do a lot of networking, I'm always very aware of what am I doing with my body? Am I fidgeting? Am I cross my arms? Where are my feet planted? Am I looking like I'm engaged in this conversation, or am I looking like I want to exit the conversation? I'm very aware of how I'm non-verbally communicating, but at this point it's probably extremely unconscious as well. But break this down for us, like just so they can start to even understand and go, oh shit, I've been doing that.
Okay, so what I would do is I would introduce a concept. So by the way, if I look a little bit all over the place here, it's because there's so much to teach.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a typical training for me would be like, 13, 14 hours a day at minimum. Half of it, like, maybe up at the mansion here or like in a seminar room, half of it actually out in public. And we would do this for days and days and days. So it's a huge volume of information. I bet it would be exercise based as well. Okay. But the base level thing the base level understanding from which body language changes or vocal tone changes is going to be, and there's many that we could start with, but a simple one I'd like to just introduce your audience to would be what's called the buyer-seller dynamic. So in other words, in any social interaction, there's one person reacting more to the other person than that person is reacting to them. And you can see who's the person who has and look, we're all equal in the eyes of God, but I'm just talking in the market here, okay, purely in the market. You can see who has more value within the market, like within a social market value, by body language, vocal tone, different things that are being said and so on and so forth, right? So the question is, what are you wanting your body language to convey in the first place? And that could be different things, right? It depends what it is that you're wanting, but also what it is that social interaction needs. So the social interaction may need for it to come across that you're somebody who has a lot of options and isn't easy to get. But the social interaction might also require you to show that actually you really like that person and that you take them seriously. And depending on how they're perceiving you and depending on what they need is going to depend on which approach that you're taking, right? Because, with a lot of people that you're talking to, you might want it to come across very nonchalant, like, I meet people like you all the time. This isn't really a big deal. I have no outcome towards this. I don't want anything towards this. And then that can cause them to want to chase you. But for other people, they could be intimidated by you and they don't think that you take them serious. And, giving them a lot of attention with your body language could actually show that you do care and that you find them to be exciting or appealing or that you are engaged with them. So, with me right now, I want you to feel that I'm engaging with you. I'm not trying to play too cool for school and like lay back and have you like coax answers out of me. I think that would be inappropriate for what we're doing. So I'm looking at you directly in the eye. I'm giving you my full attention. I have urgency. I'm talking quickly to show that I'm trying to communicate a lot of information to you. If you were somebody that I was like looking to date, for example, if you maybe look a bit more like her, well then if that's the case, what I might be doing is slowing down my speech. I might even be, if you have a lot of attention, I might be trying to show you that I'm safe, that I'm not someone who's going to get needy. If we trade Instagram or if we trade a phone number, I'm not going to start blowing your phone up and being all freaking weird. So I might be turning my body to the side more and being kind of funny, like just throwing out little jokes and seeing if you'll kind of pull me back in and kind of engage in dynamic where you're trying to, fish a little bit for my attention and create that kind of a dynamic.
What if I'm networking with like a big player or like someone who I'm ahead of me in the game? Like if it's the business owner wanting to do a deal, network high with someone of higher status, let's just call it that.
Okay.
What kind of angle are you going for there?
Okay, so an example would be like you were at Ty Lopez's party today. We met at one of Ty's old parties. So Ty is an incredibly successful guy. I actually knew Ty before he was famous, but he was just locally famous. He was locally famous around LA. He just didn't care to be big on social media. But he lives here in LA, does parties up in the Hollywood Hills, crib similar to this. So I remember when I first met Ty, there was a bunch of other business owners over. There was a whole bunch of them, all of them super loaded. And the typical pattern that you'd see is like, say that we would go from Ty's mansion down to like Sushi Ya, which is in Sunset Plaza down there, there's a sushi restaurant, right? And you're kind of all eating outside on the street, kind of in front of the restaurant. So there might be like, say, 20 other business owners there. So what most guys would do is they would kind of like want to be near Ty because they're at Ty's party. Ty's a very successful, highly intelligent guy. So they kind of try to crowd around him. What I would intentionally do, and I do this every time I'm around high profile people, is I want to go to the opposite end of the table. So I want to go where there's the quote unquote, again, everyone's equal in the eyes of God, but I'm saying like in the social market value, which is just real. I want to be as far away from the value as possible. Then what I want to do is I want to be clear, look, everywhere that I go, I'm the party. I'm having fun. So what most people do is they become spectators, right? Like if the cool end of the table is over here, the not cool end of the table is over there, people over there will tend to be very quiet and stare at this end of the table. It's human nature to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to become very funny, boisterous, loud. I'm going to talk to tables that are adjacent to me, start having fun with everybody. And then they're going to look over there and go like, who's this guy over here? Like I thought we're the cool table. Like, how come they're not, why are they having all the fun over there? Another thing that I've commonly done with big business owners is I feel like, again, you never, ever, ever want to play the game of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because the problem is that if you play that game, you can't win that game because there's just going to be people that make more money than you, right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's say that I'm making about $1 million a month. And let's say that, that sounds like a lot of money on the surface, right? $1 million a month, but it's really not. Now, a lot of your audience might go, what? You're saying you're so out of touch? Like $1 million a month is not a lot. No, like we're sitting up here in the Hollywood Hills. Like that's not a lot of money. Avicii and Tiesto used to live in this house. Like the guy that runs EDC used to live in this house. That's not a lot of money when you live in Los Angeles. I mean, this house here is pretty cool. Ty's crib is it's $100 million estate, previously lived in by the Sultan of Brunei. Yeah. It's an endless game, right? But the thing is, even at Ty's level of money, living in a $100 million estate, if he goes to certain places, he's a small fry financially, which is actually what you want to do, by the way. You don't just want to be around people that are at your level. You want to be around people who are past where you're at. So if I go to an environment like that, and then I play the game of, I'm a 6 in wealth and you're a 10 in wealth, the average person being a 1.
Like pedestaling?
Yeah, if I'm putting him at a 10, then the problem is I'm playing his game, and then he or she are gonna clump me as the 6 in the equation and them as the 10. I'm playing their game. I think what you want to do instead is you want to be what's called one of one. So you want to not in any way, shape, or form buy into that kind of frame, right? So for example, if you're an ugly guy, and you want to date a girl who's very beautiful, don't rate yourself based on your looks. Instead, put things like sense of humor or having fun or good vibes or just being popular in your social group or things like that. Make that more important in your reality, as well as things like whatever is particularly unique about you, and have so much conviction that that stuff is cool that people that are around you start to feel like they're not cool. So a big thing for me, example, is the great outdoors. I'm a huge outdoorsman. Like I love to be in the outdoors. So if I'm talking to a girl and then, we just get to talking and then we start talking about the outdoors, and then I start pulling out pictures from my trip to Alaska and my trips to Montana and Wyoming and Arizona and Washington State and driving the Oregon coast and the Redwood Forest and the, rainforest in Hawaii and, stuff like that. Well, then if I'm confident about that and then she begins to buy into my frame that that's a cool way to live, then she's like, well, yeah, I'm cute, but like, I'm just stuck here in LA, like going out to like these lame druggy parties, and this guy's living a fun life, and he doesn't even like me.
So now she's in a frame of comparing herself to you, of you. She's perceiving how you're ranking the situation.
Based on a frame that you're establishing, right? So if you don't buy into the frame that looks for the most important thing, then someone who might be better looking than you, look, they may buy into your frame, they may not. You have to even be in a position to even get into a conversation with them, which that's a whole process in and of itself. But the point is that if you can get into a conversation with them, and then let's say initially you're very, very funny, you're not needy at all, you're super funny, they're not as funny as you, so now you have a better sense of humor. They're trying to keep up with your humor, like, oh, this guy's so cool, like, I always wish that I could be like funny like this, but he's just so funny. And then eventually they keep pushing to talk to you more. You're in no way, shape, or form hitting on them. And then, you're talking about nature adventures, or maybe you're talking about your passion for the Bible, or maybe you're talking about your passion for helping other people, or maybe you're talking about how you love to play an instrument. And they've always admired people that play instruments. For us that do social media, I can promise you, a lot of very beautiful women, they are visually attractive, and they know that they would have something to say, but they haven't been using their mind as much because they haven't had as much pressure. So if you were to say to them, hey, like, I'd love to see you actually talking a little bit and not just like, using your looks, you can't imagine the response that gets, especially if you have a beautiful woman who's also very, very attractive or very, very intelligent, and she knows that she hasn't been using her mind, and you say, yeah, I'd love to see you speak. I'd love to see you use your mind. Like, and then, and they're posting little stories of them, like, showing their boobs, like that kind of stuff. And you're like, come on, like, what is this? Like, use your mind, right? And so you're totally like pulling the rug on that, which of course most people are worshiping them, but you're either a friend or a fan. Most people are worshiping them, fall in the fan category. You're actually laying down a frame that deep down they know is probably true. So now all of a sudden they want to live up to that frame, and you're becoming one of one. In my case, like I happen to love free associated public speaking. I just love free associated when I'm public speaking. So like I'll do events where I go to the front of the room and I'm teaching everyone in that room public speaking and how to do it without a script. So in other words, without a PowerPoint, just being able to improvise and public speak. I'm very passionate about this. So by the time that I've been doing that for 2 days, the frame of that room is that's me. Owen is the leader because we all like free associative improvised public speaking. We're all trying to learn it. He happens to be the best of it in this environment. But the thing is, bro, what they don't understand is I've got to impose the frame that improvised public speaking is cool in the first place, right? Like we could like if you look at a basketball game, like say you go to an NBA game, right? Everyone's sitting there staring at LeBron, but you have to initially convince everyone that a guy throwing a rubber ball, bro, into a hole is we're sitting at the top of a freaking stadium looking down from the nosebleed, several things up, paying thousands of dollars if it's a good enough game, and cheering and going crazy for some guy throwing a rubber ball in a hoop. Yeah. I was on a bus once, and I met an old school surfer, and I remember he said to me, you know what we did back in the day? We convinced the world that standing on a wood plank on a wave is cool. Right? Like we tend to think that surfing is a thing, basketball is a thing, boxing is a thing, public speaking is a thing, but somebody has to be that first person to come along and say, no, this is cool. Have you ever seen the old video where someone's at Dolores Park and they start dancing and then other people start following?
Yeah.
You've got to be...
the dancing man.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got to be, ideally, that first mover who thinks that something is cool. And if you believe that, and if in your communication you're so passionate about that other people start to think it's cool and you can make it cool, then there's going to be, it's not going to be that everyone loves you, but of the people who do buy in and who happen to resonate with that and like they do connect to that, they're going to think that's super cool.
Give us an example of, like, let's go back to the party or a networking thing, speaking to another person, right? The thing is, it's always very simple to break it down in dating, all right? But I want to talk like guy to guy. Because I think like everyone, well, probably not everyone, I'm generalizing. It's easier, I'm thinking for myself, it's easier to like say flirt if you're trying to pick up a girl and set a frame or play this sort of game of frame changing. But I'm also now putting myself in the shoes of someone trying to come and network with me. And I could see that if I wasn't very secure, I could perhaps see it as you're trying to one-up me, kind of. So how do you, like give us an example of like framing and changing frames in a networking situation with like a higher caliber person, and how do you avoid ever putting them in a situation where they might feel like you're trying to one-up them at their own game?
Actually, let's circle back to, that's a great question. Let's circle back to the Ty Lopez example, right? So where's Sushiya? He and his multi-millionaire, if not billionaire connections are one on the table. I'm at the other end of the table, right? So the first way that I'm not trying to impose my frame onto them in a way that's manipulative or weird is I'm at the other end of the table. I could have done what everybody else did and kind of try to push my way up there, but I'm at the other end of the table. I'm just having fun with everybody. So laughter and having fun and not being needy and using your body language to show, hey, I could leave anytime. Look, I'm having fun here, but I could leave anytime too. That's gonna allow people to feel comfortable around you because you're showing them that you don't need anything, okay? But then what's gonna happen, and here's what I found in cases like that, and that thing that I use is the Ty example. I'm using it because we both know Ty, but I've done this in hundreds of different cases. Typically, the multimillionaire or billionaire will come up to you and they'll say, hey, listen, how can I add value to your business? Now, why do they tend to say that? They say that because anyone who's successful understands that the language of networking is adding value to others, right? They get that, right? So anyone who's successful is like, hey, how can I add value to you? Well, why are they going to say that to you? They're going to say that to you because most people that are rich believed wrongly that once they got rich, they'd finally be happy. So many of these people have worked and worked and worked their whole life, realize that they're completely miserable. And when they finally see somebody with a smile on their face, and by the way, who's also really good socially and is talking to everybody and at ease with everybody, men, women, everybody, and they see that and they're like, wait, I thought that's what happened when I got the watch. I thought that's what happened when I have the car. I thought that's what happened when I have the mansion. So they begin to envy you because you have what they did all this for, which was to eventually have love or to eventually have approval and have people who actually care about them, not just for money. So they see that. So they'll usually want to be friends with you when they see you having fun. You'll kind of draw them in. Then what you say is, because part of you, if you run a business, you're going to want to say, well, actually, I need help with this. I need help with this. I need help with this. Oh, right. And now they put their frame on you. It's almost like if a beautiful woman came and started like rubbing her tits in your face or something, right? You don't want to just start sucking, right? You want to go, hey, hands out the merchandise, right? You want to push it back a little bit to show that you're not just going to fall into their frame. So, even though you might feel otherwise, but you have to, restrain, right?
And fight the urge.
Yeah, because what you're doing otherwise is they just shove you into their frame, feed their ego, and they're on to the next. They'll just walk off in most cases. So in the same way, if they say, hey, how can I help you with your business? Often, and this is the truth, I'll say this. I'll say, you know what? Really appreciate you saying that, man. I really, really do. That's really, really cool of you. I'm kind of at a phase of my life right now where my main goal is I just want to have fun, bro. It's weird. Like I work my whole life. And, I'm able to go have a little bit of fun at this point. And that's kind of like a subtle way of saying, like, I'm fucking loaded. You just go, yeah, I'm able to go have a little bit of fun at this point. So, my main goal just day to day is just to find as much fun stuff to do as I can. I haven't even worked in like 5 years. And as soon as you say that, they're completely powerless now, right? It's because what's happened is the thing that they're using to push their frame on other people has no power over you, which now all of a sudden that triggers a psychological reaction of like, I need to get this person's approval.
Vulnerability.
That's the same thing as someone shove their tits in your face, and then you're just like, no. Then it's like, wait a minute, but that way that I get everyone worshiping me didn't work. Well, now I got to find another way. So in other words, what happens is you say, that's not even my thing, I want to have fun, which then that further gets them thinking, wait a minute, I've always want to have fun. So now they really, really want to be friends. Then when you hang out, and bro, I can't tell you how many multimillionaires and billionaires I've been sitting with right on this balcony, and I've never asked them for any advice, and they just shove advice and secrets down my throat. But I just want to have fun. And look, it's the same thing. Like say that you don't want physical intimacy, right? And then it's like, no, like I'm not about physical intimacy with like gorgeous women. I'm about cool public speaking and see you use your mind. Like let's use your mind. You have a mind. Can you use your mind? Right? And all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, but this isn't going to work. I have to use this. And now what you've done is you flip the frame, or say that you're super funny, right? And then if ever they're not funny enough, you kind of get bored and you kind of just like you say something funny, they try to say something funny back, but it's not good enough. And you go, that was kind of weird. And then you turn your back, they're like, wait, and then they pull you back because you've tilted the buyer-seller dynamic. So it's the same thing with when you do sales. If you're selling from the stage or if you're selling in a video, it has to be very, very clear. I'm a busy person. I've got, you don't say this overtly, but it should be through the way that you communicate. I'm a busy person. I've got a great life. I don't need to do this, but I'm down to help you if you're serious about it. And that's the distinction between what you call an opportunity or a sale. People don't buy from a sale. They will purchase if it's an opportunity. Eben Pagan, who used to go by the pseudonym David D'Angelo, is one of the true OGs. Some of your audience may know who Eben Pagan is. EbenPagan, okay, aka David D'Angelo, one of the true OGs of internet marketing. Like, he's your favorite marketer's favorite marketer, along with guys like, Dan Kennedy or John Carlton. Eben, he had a book, and he literally just called it Opportunity. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is like when you're socializing with somebody, is this coming across as a sale, like as a schmarmy sale, or is it an opportunity? And that has to be framed through your vocal tone, body language, the things that you say, the way that you're working in an environment. It has to be clear that it's an opportunity. As soon as it becomes a sale and you want something, reflexively they leave, right? Best example I could think of would be like fancy watches, right? You look at a basic fancy watch, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Rolex. Like, a lot of people think these are expensive, specifically because there might be like some really expensive movement in it, or maybe there's gold in it or something. It's like, oh, the gold in that, right? Like the amount of gold in this watch is probably less than like $1,000 or something like that. But AP, what they do is they say, you can't buy it. Like, you're not allowed to buy it. You're gonna have to book an appointment. You're gonna have to wait in line. You're gonna have to write us an essay about why you like the brand AP and the history of the brand AP. If you demand a royal oak, we're not gonna sell it to you. If you walk in with $100,000, we're not going to sell it to you. You're going to have to come back multiple times, and then you're going to have to basically pray that they'll sell this damn thing to you. Now, that watch that could be worth $100,000, people say, wait a minute, what? If I go in and I just give them $100,000, they won't take my money? No, we don't want your money. So look what they're doing. They're flipping the script, right? Yeah. There's a great video by a guy named Phil Reed, who actually talks about how hard it is to get an AP. People can look that up. How hard it is to get an Audemars Piguet. And so you say to yourself, well, why wouldn't they just sell it to everyone? So let's say that I say
they control the scarcity.
Yes, but it's all an art form of selling a watch that physically is maybe worth $500 or $1,000 for $100,000. So everything about the framing has to be done in a way that it's $100,000 watch. So, if they just give it to you, like say that you walk with $100,000, they give it to you, it's not like the price would go from 100 to 50,000. Right? Like, oh, well, if they give it to everyone, rather than selling one a week for 100,000, they could sell a ton of them for 50,000. It doesn't work like that. If you just make it available to everybody, it goes down to commodity level price, like basically just like what it's just literally worth, but not with the brand, which would mean that same watch might be worth $200, $300, maybe $1,000. It wouldn't be worth anything. So every single thing has to be like, some people are told no, not everybody gets this. This is very exclusive. And what people will say is like, well, I don't want to play games, right? I don't want to play games. No one is making anybody play a game. I think that every single human being in the world should have regular friends. Take a guy like Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez had his friend Zach, who actually passed away. He hangs out regularly with his grandmother. Tai happens to also hang out with his sister, hangs out with his brother Ben. You'll never see a man on earth that has more old high school friends or old family friends than Tai. So Tai has a core group of friends that are his real friends. I don't think that Tai is trying to look like an AP watch to his brother Ben or to Maya. But Tai also had the Golden State Warriors come to the after party at his house after they won the championship. Tai has also networked with some of the biggest people in the entire world. And I promise you, if Tai is trying to get the attention of somebody who has limited bandwidth, right? This is a person with limited bandwidth, and everybody wants something from them, that he will understand how to network with that person who has limited bandwidth. So most of the stuff that we're talking about here, remember, you absolutely should have real family friends that you grew up with. You should have friends that you've been friends with for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You should have charity work that you do out in public, just helping random homeless people. You should have people that you have a non-transactional relationship with. I think it's very important for everyone's core to have people who love you just for you, not transactional and not performance-based at all. Not performance-based at all. You need real love, like the love of a mother, the love of a father, the love of a brother, the love of a sister, love of a friend. You have to have that in your life. But I think what people do is they take that realness and then they say, well, that's all there is. But it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, would you like to be able to buy your kid organic food? Well, I have 3 kids. Buying them organic food is exceedingly expensive. But my kids are on a ski trip right now. I have staff that are, because I'm busy this weekend doing this stuff with you, I have staff that take them on a private ski trip and they get private lessons. Do you want your children to have that? For your kid to go to an Ivy League school, you're looking at about $65,000 a year. Let's say they go to Columbia in New York City. You're probably looking at another $10,000 a month in rent or $5,000 a month in rent if that's cheap. You're looking at about, I don't know, probably $150,000 a year for them to go to Columbia. That's $600,000. What if your kid comes to you and says, hey, mommy or daddy, I got into an Ivy League school. I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Columbia. I want to go to Yale. But they can't go because you couldn't pay for them to go. What if your kid goes and gets cancer or some kind of childhood disease because you're feeding them McDonald's? What about the fact that you can't get them good tutors? I'm very fortunate. My kids have traveled the entire country multiple times over by car. They've skied almost every major ski resort. They have all sorts of tutors. They have the healthiest food. They're incredibly, I also bring them up in front of audiences. I get them doing public speaking. We've done very dangerous, challenging, but we do it in a safe way, overnight hikes and things like that. They've hiked the Kalalau Trail in Nepali Coast. They've hiked Eagle Creek in Oregon. They've hiked the Harding Glacier in Alaska. They've done all this before they even turned 10. Well, do you want to be able to do this for your kids? Would you like to have a partner who you're genuinely attracted to, who you have a great physical, intimate bond with? Do you want to be able to take fancy supplements so that you can live an extra long life, so that you can give more to other people? Do you want to have a base level value to give more to others? Yeah. That takes things like money, status, and clout. I'm sorry to tell you that. So if you want to do even better for that core group that you're with and add more to them, make yourself strong. You see people that just get into charity. It's like, you've got no charity to give, my man or my woman. You know what I'm saying? Right? You got nothing to give, right? So you want to make yourself strong first while also doing nice things for other people where you can, but build yourself up. So it's not that these little understandings of status should come into play with your core group. In fact, you should be able to let down your guard with your core group and have a really, really tight inner circle. But you should also have the awareness or knowledge of how to expand that circle. And by the way, last point I make is this. That same person that maybe you initially kind of pulled in can become a real friend. They don't know you. They have limited time. They have limited bandwidth, right? That beautiful woman who has 1 million guys in her DMs texting her has limited bandwidth. She can't date all of them. She certainly can't hook up with all of them. And if she did, you wouldn't even like her anymore. But in many ways, once you might understand how to bring her in your life, then she can become literally your best friend in the entire world. And you can go from a performance-based relationship to a genuine relationship. Now, you're never 100% non-performance based because you should still be like a good, strong personal leader, but you could be a lot more real and a lot less transactional. So you can get to that place, but it's not from you just wishing for it and going, well, we should just have a connection. Like, like looking at the most like high status person or the most beautiful person, go, I pick you to be my new best friend. Yeah, you've got to know how to add value to them.
You've got to add value. And as you were saying this, and when you were saying about how you're sitting here on the balcony with millionaires and billionaires, and how they just want to jam stuff down your throat, like value. I was trying to understand, like, what would make them want to do? Because as soon as I met you, it was instantly like we didn't even know each other. But it was instantly, I don't know if you can think back when we first met, it was how fast we both trying to like throw the ball of value to each other. I was like, hey, I could do this for you. He's like, oh, I could do this for you. Well, how about we do this? Well, how about you do this? And then that was like a game of, and then like 1 hour later, we hung out here at your house all night long,
all night long, baby.
And
yeah.
But that's the game that I play. Not really the game because it's become so natural for me, but I'll always think of what is it that they might want that I have or I could get access to. I could just add value. And someone asked me one time, like, why do you do it? And the answer was because I can. Because my motive is when I'm networking with somebody, if I can add value to you, I will, not because I want something, but just because I can. Because I just believe in the law of the universe as well. That like if I can add tremendous value to you, I might not get something from you now, but I live in a world where a lot of people give me free shit all the time. Or like I just stayed in Phoenix with friends. They're like, come stay at my whole house. I met this amazing guy. I don't know if you know Pace Morby. I met him for a few hours. And he's like, dude, next time you're in Phoenix, come and stay with me. And I'm just like, this is so fucking bizarre that some absolute stranger 2 hours ago was like, come and stay with me and my family. But then I'm like, no, I live in a world where that's actually normal because I give him value and then I'm going to train all of his community for free. And like we just live in this world. I'm just trying to always think like, hey, I know someone I can connect you with or this person or, and I think that's, last time I was actually at Tides, someone replied to my story and they're like, you should make a course on networking. I'm like, maybe I fucking should actually. Because I'm like, but all I think about is what we were talking actually about before is authenticity. I'm like, I lead with authenticity. I make sure that I do what I say and I say what I do because I vibrate at a different level. Like you can meet someone, you meet someone if they're authentic, you're like, it's easy talking with you. Then you can meet someone who's a fraud, an imposter, they're wearing a mask, they're trying to be someone they're not, and you know it. So I try to lead with authenticity, and then I always just go from the baseline of going, how can I add just value to this person? Law of reciprocity. So they're probably just going to want to feel like giving something back to me. And I reckon that's what you do on the balcony here, because you just talk about like cool stuff and the things and after a while, they're probably just thinking like, how can I help this guy? Like he's just so giving. He hasn't asked me for anything. Everyone else asks me for shit all the time. Do you find it happens?
Yeah. That combined with showing them something that they crave, right? Which is like, again, like you said, real human connection. I mean, when you're famous or you're also as a beautiful woman, it's almost impossible to make a real friend. It's virtually impossible to have a real friend because you make friends with people and then they seem to be a real friend. And then inevitably they do ask for something. And you start to realize like, and then oftentimes the experience is that when they stop getting the thing that they wanted transactionally, they flip on you and they even shit talk you. So it's one of these things where when you can show genuine friendship, that's very, very powerful. But I think that when you can show something that they, like for example, if you're a little bit more socially free than them and they crave to be socially free, that is an added value to them. If you are just enjoying life more than them, I do a lot of vacations and I have a lot of fun. And you better believe that whenever I'm talking to a really, really successful business person, that's the conversation is more likely to go to joking, talking to other people, having fun dating, having fun socializing, talking about places that I'm visiting and things like that. And then they're going to tend to go into their comfort zone, which is adding value by giving you businesses, right? I mean, same thing if you're talking to a woman. If you're just like, you're so beautiful, which everybody's doing, well, then you're playing into her frame. If you're just joking, having fun, even talking about using your mind, right? If it's a girl who actually craves to use her mind more, things like that, then now she is seeing something that she craves and that you represent that, and then you can help her with that. With me with public speaking, same thing, right? I'm showing public speaking at the front. somebody who wants to learn to be a better public speaker is watching that and craving it. So I think that it's like you said, it's the genuineness, it's the authenticity, but also I think like, you know, you're a skydiver as an example. You're also a public speaker. You're also an international traveler. You're also highly intelligent. So there's things that people also see in you beyond just the core authenticity, right? Because, you know, if somebody has no value to add at all, and they're just like, well, I'm really myself and I'm homeless. Like, a lot of homeless people are very authentic. It doesn't mean you're going to live in a cardboard box.
True. As you said it, actually, I'm like, where did that come from? A mentor said to me a while ago, actually, because I started in network marketing. That was my first like proper business we got started in. And what do you do in that industry? You go talk to a lot of fucking people. You go talk to a lot of people about shit that they probably don't really want. They've already got preconceived ideas about it. You know what I mean? And one of the things he said to me, he's like, go and become just an interesting person. He's like, because if you go talk to somebody and you've got nothing to talk about except your fucking business they've already heard about, you're not going to go anywhere. But he's like, but if you can become an interesting person that has hobbies and have traveled and done stuff, you have multiple things to talk about. And that's how I get my way through the world. And one of my favorite actually lines, which I want to talk about this next actually is, and I say this with people when I train people in leadership and sales and anything and connecting really, is if you sit with me anywhere and you find me connect with a new person, the first thing I'm going to say to them is, where are you from? Right? Where are you from? Because I just want to understand, and this comes down to, one, I want to lock it in my head. For some reason, I like to, if I'm going to talk to you, I need to know where you came from or where you live. And then it just sits in my head. I'm like, okay. Probably because then I go, I got to know someone who lives there. But I'm always just trying to find common ground as fast as I can. And how I do that is, so if I had never been to LA and I meet you in Nashville, and you're like, oh, I'm from LA, I'm going to say, oh, no way. I'm thinking about going there. Like, where's the best place should I go? Where do I say? Where do I avoid? Because the one thing people love to talk about is where they're from. They love it. So I'll either say, I've been there, it's amazing, I love this place, or I'm thinking of going there. And people go, well, what if you meet someone from Nigeria? You're thinking about going there? I said, probably one day I'll probably go there. Not next week, not next month, but sometime. And that's always my way in. But I'm curious to know, like, for someone sitting there wanting that line, that script, the whole pickup line, and we joked as we started. Actually, what was yours? What was your pickup line? Tell them, actually. Any guys listening to this, they're going to love this one. They can take it.
He had never heard this.
I never heard it. I loved it.
For everyone else, the real joke here is that he had never heard this.
I'm so shocked he's over this. But it's, are you from Tennessee? Because you're the only 10.
Yeah? So he'd never, the real joke is he hadn't heard that one.
Oh, I loved it. I love it.
So
give us even though we know like lines like that, that one could work, actually. That's funny. But like, for someone who's in that line, even though I don't think it exists, but like how I said, I'm like, what I'm always looking for first is just to find a connecting point of where they're from. So I want to know what's in your head as you go for the connection, whether it's a girl at the bar or the higher level CEO or some billionaire you want to connect with. What's your sort of go-to, either line or frame or something you're trying to, the angle you're approaching with?
Sure. So the first thing I want to say is that I think it's your genuineness and your congruence behind saying, where are you from, that I think works for you. Okay. So if you truly believe in what it is that you're saying and it resonates very, very deeply with you, there's almost like this kind of perfect ting of authenticity, like ding, like a perfect authentic feel. So I think because you genuinely like asking that question, it's very, very genuine. I think that's why it's very, very effective for you. Okay. And I think you should keep doing it. I would also comment that when you're really good socially, you could even walk up to someone without even talking at all. And if you're really, really good at just managing your energy and you just look at them, they'll often start giggling and laughing and then go, what's your name? Right? And you could just make faces like, and they're like, what is this? Well, you're not going to answer. And you go, and they're like, where do you come from? And you're like, and you just make little faces. I mean, I've kept that going for like beginning of an interaction all the way out to some crazy adventure. I mean, like, you know, you can really just keep doing that. It actually plays off the principle that usually people can be trying to screen you out. So because you didn't talk, you gave them nothing to screen you out with, and they actually wound up proceeding with you. It's kind of a powerful concept. But so regardless that something like not even talking at all or asking where you're from could be effective, I could give people some other ones I think are great. A couple that I think are good. One is imitation. So for example, like if I look at you and I go,
We're just doing the same.
So that was like a very, like not even much of an imitation. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so this is a very minor imitation that we're doing, right? This is not like Jim Carrey the Mask stuff, right? Like this is very, very minor.
It's like I'm going. Is this guy drunk?
Yeah. Well, there you go, right? So, but an imitation, people's in marketing, we learned that everyone's favorite line is their own name.
Yeah, well,
right?
it's a pattern interrupt too. I think that's probably why it worked. That'd be like
Massive
that,
pattern.
because what I've learned from one of my mentors is what gets passed down generations for our DNA is these things called scripts, and we have hardwired scripts. Like things like we have to be in the tribe. If we're with the tribe, we're safe. This is why the bandwagon effect exists. They've even shown through like things like the Ash experiment. If we have 3 peers in a group say one answer, we'll agree with the other 3 answers, even if we know the answer's wrong, but we need 3. That's enough for us to jump on the bandwagon. So that's a script that's been passed down because that kept our ancestors alive. If you're by yourself, you die. If you're with the group, you survive. But then there's other scripts that are...
But by the way, the more that you can break that and not be the person who would fall in that, the more attractive you are. But yeah, keep going.
So then there's other scripts that are formed. So let's say, for example, so as a girl in the nightclub, you have a pre-empted script already through years of guys trying to approach you in a nightclub. So you're already anticipating probably what. So a guy comes up, oh, hey, like, oh, where are you from? Or it's already like, it's familiar, and then she already has her preempted autopilot response. Same as you walk into a retail store and the first thing they say, can I help you with anything? And you say, no, thanks, just looking. Then 2 minutes later you go, oh, fuck, I actually needed help. And you have this automatic response and you didn't even know about it. So the pattern interrupts change that script because they weren't expecting that. So the
You actually nailed it.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why I wouldn't personally start with where you're from, but I like it for you because you believe in it.
It's the first angle, but I'm not going to walk up and be like, where are you from? Because then she's like, the fuck?
Yeah, so you roll.
I'm going to open something first. And as we're sort of breaking in, and it's like first 30 seconds, I'm like, where are you from? You're not from here. I just want to understand it.
Yeah. So you're because you believe in it and because you roll off it onto the next thing, it's good for you. For me, I specifically don't do that for the exact reason that you just said, which is that it's a little bit autopilot. So for me, imitation, I think, works at a level that is a pattern interrupt, as you said, 100%. What I'd add to that is that in marketing, we learned that everyone's favorite word is their own name or the word you. So whenever I'm doing a sales ad, for example, I'll say the word you, or if it's directly the person, I'll say their name. Now, if you're imitating somebody, that imitation could be a 2 out of 10, but because it's about them specifically, it will amplify that to a 10 out of 10. So I could do an imitation that literally is like barely funny. You know, I could be like, hey, I'm Morgan. But if I just do that, like that's not like I'm actually doing like not even good, right? I'm like, I'm Morgan Nilsson. Yeah. Kiwi. Right? Like, no, Kiwi, right? Like I'm Morgan Nilsson. Koala. And just because I did that, you know what I mean, right? Like, you know, like you're in Brazil, like I'm Bia. I eat acai. I like an acai bowl. Like that's not even good.
You're Brazilian?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I eat acai.
Yeah. Like I eat acai. Like just like that's not even hurt much you does at all. But if I just say something as an imitation, you know, like people will laugh
Because it's so personal.
It's so personal.
Yeah.
So that's why I like imitation. Another one that I like is I can literally like I'm Bia. I'm from Brazil. So I go to Carnival. Right, and she'll just be like, oh my god, right? Like it's not even like it's not even good. But you know, just because it's about the person, you know, they'll laugh, and I'm not exempt from it too, right? Everybody could do it, right? It's not hard to imitate me either. So it's
I'm imagining guys now going out to a nightclub, going like, "Oh, Owen Cook said that."
Yeah.
And then walking up to a girl and they go, "Where are you from?" Oh, combining what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So where are you from? Brazil. Oh, you're from Brazil.
Yeah.
And then the girl just goes.
But then you can imitate that too. You go. I can imitate that.
You're like, "Fuck, I missed something there."
Look how dumb you could go, right? Like I could be like, oh, I'm Morgan Nelson. Hey, I got a shrimp on the barbie. I'm a kangaroo. Boing, 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 boing. And like, just because it's about you, it's like you'll just start laughing at it because it amplifies it because it's about you. So it's so directly in your face that it makes it sound louder, in your in your mind, right? Like I'm Morgan, I jumped from a plane. And like just because it's about you, it'll be effective, right? So I do a lot of imitation, like off the jump. I think imitation is amazing. It's also not needy, right? It's also very self-amused.
So imitating.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the other one would be talking about their dynamic, right? So who's the boss? Who's the more cocky one? Who's the more shy one?
So if they're with a friend or something.
Yeah, and they usually are, right? So if you've ever seen like those TikToks where like they both, like the two people close their eyes, like who's the shy one? Who's the funny one? Who's the crazy one? Who's the needy one? And they're like, yeah, they're doing it. Like that's amazing. Like anything about their dynamic is incredible. Saying, are you guys best friends? You guys have the exact same facial expressions. And then they look at each other, and when they look at each other, they have the same facial expression. Then they go into a reverberation laughing. You could even joke that like, oh, you guys keep looking at each other to like validate everything that we're talking about, which the girls, they'll keep doing that a lot. And then you could even joke that you should put a little mirror on your shoulder for when she's not there, and then you could just look at the mirror on your shoulder, and then they'll start laughing at that. You make facial expressions, like a good person face, bad person mannerisms. I don't know what to think of you. So anything that shows that you're like, think they're kind of cool, but you're not sure is really good.
And so now let's flip it to if you're speaking to a high level person. You're probably not going to imitate that guy.
Actually, I've actually had a lot of cases. I mean, I could tell you even much, much crazier stuff when I've been around high-level people where I have done that, but specifically to avoid feeding into the frame. Like, I actually do think that sometimes, like, in any way, shape, or form, acknowledging someone's frame who is not going to give you attention is a losing battle. Like, if they're, like, you make this much, they make this much. They don't have a reason to talk to you. In what way is acknowledging their frame at all ever going to help you? I don't acknowledge any frame that I can't win in that frame. If there's a status imbalance, I just don't see the point.
Okay.
Like I don't like. Oh hi, I am Owen. I run a coaching thing. You are mega billionaire, but I'm like a good coach. I'm like a fun little guy. Waka waka. Like I just don't see the purpose of it. So it's like if I can't win, then why am I going to acknowledge that friend? There's no point. Like what am I going to get out of that, right? So and so I've done business networking at very high levels. And often, if anything, what I'm likely to do is like, maybe go meet some girls, kind of, if the guy's single, kind of bring them over, kind of joke with them, not make it a big deal, network the whole place. Like, why would I feed any frame where I don't have something that they're chasing because they have limited bandwidth? Again, is it a genuine friendship? Like you and I have known each other a while, right? So I'm not doing this when I'm talking to you, but if it's someone who I don't know and they have very, very limited bandwidth and everyone's trying to get their attention and literally their main job at this point is screening, that I'm not going to give them something to screen me with. I'm going to try to provide something they haven't seen. I'm thinking of an angle of some kind. I'm not just like, just throwing up the white flag going like, hello there, I'm another little guy that wants something. Ha. Like, I just don't see how that helps anything from my point of view. I'd rather swing for the fences, have them be like, what, that's weird, than just be the next person that just is the exact same thing.
Okay, so let's say I've been taking some of this advice. I'm going out there and I'm practicing. I'm actually like breaking the mold. Where I started to actually, when I got into this, every single person I talked to, I'd strike up a conversation, not to get anything, but just to build the habit. They'd be doing my groceries at the store, and I'm properly trying to connect with them, understand their life, understand how long they've been there, for no other reason, but just to build the habit. So let's say this person's been out there and they're doing things like this. They're going out there trying to talk to 50 people in a night or a day or whatever, going networking events, trying not to be weird and doing their thing. And they want to take their influence to the next level now. Where should they start? Like, should they throw parties? Should they make their own mastermind group? Like, what's your event?
Oh, I mean, I think that's amazing. All of the above that you just said is incredible, particularly because at a party, the frame is that you're the person in demand. At a mastermind, you're the person in demand. So again, when I'm with everyone who you see here, there's a bunch of people behind the cameras over here that I'm hanging out with. I'm not like, to be their friend, I need a mastermind and a party and an invitation. Like, I'm not thinking like that. These are my real friends. But if you're talking about people where there's a status imbalance, they have more status than you, anything that you could do to flip the script on that is incredibly powerful. A big one, too, is when you do a party, a lot of people will flake. They're not initially going to show up. So if you can have a good Instagram story of it, that if they see it 2 or 3 times, they're more likely to eventually come. I know when I get invited to a party, I also have limited bandwidth. I'm a social media influencer, 22-year teacher. So the chances of me going to almost anything on the first invite is very, very low. You know, Luca, you're talking to me about going to this thing in Vegas. If I don't wind up going, you better believe I'll probably look at your Instagram story, feel incredibly stupid. What's the thing that you want to go to in Vegas? What's it called again?
Funnel hackers.
Funnel hackers, right?
We'll get you there.
Yeah, so maybe I'll get there, right? So we're working on it.
Peer pressure.
But yeah, but say for example that like I don't wind up going. I look at your story. I'm like, oh man, I should have gone there. I'm frustrated. Well, now next time I'm more likely to take an invitation. I'll try to get there, guys. But I'm just making the point, like, you know, so having a great story, I think, is also good. So, like, I think that you could meet someone and not have like a great thing to invite them to, and that's fine. And I think that that can go well. But that's going to be primarily personality driven and chemistry driven. Whereas when you have like a really cool invite, like say that you cultivated a party, a mastermind, some little club or something, or maybe you're having access to other stuff. Now what you have is a position where you can invite people out and they're going to see you in a very favorable light because you're inviting them to a place that you have authority. I do free events all over the world. I do free events in almost every major city. You know, our biggest ones would be like, you know, LA, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Miami, Austin, Boston, DC, Seattle. I mean, we're everywhere. We're everywhere. Well, part of the selfish reasons that I do completely free events is you don't even have to do any fancy sales techniques. When people come into your environment and you're blowing everybody's mind and you're doing completely for free, they're going to really look up to you and they're going to want to further their involvement with you.
You know what I used to do? I used to throw Sunday fun days. When I was really in a phase of networking super hard for my business, I actually found I played it. It was super perfect for everything because when I was single, I didn't want to waste time chatting up girls. I didn't want to go out to bars anymore. I was just such a waste of my time. So I was like, how can I do both at the exact same time? And I used to throw Sunday fun days. So every single Sunday, no, sorry, it was once a month Sundays. We're doing it every single week, then it got too much. So once a month, we throw a Sunday funny. We had a Facebook group for it. It was fucking awesome. And we used to just do some cool ass shit that would include everybody. So no matter where I was at any day during that month, I had something to chat to them about and a reason to connect online, to get contact numbers. So if I was at a restaurant or if I was at a networking party, if I meet a new cool person, I'm like, you just moved here? Hey, let me know your Facebook. You have to come to the Sunday Fun Day. And then like I run the whole thing because it's this thing coming up. There was always a thing coming up that I could invite them to. And so it worked actually both ways with just new business contacts. And when I was single, I was like, oh, it's, you know, kill two birds, one stone. I'm going to do this one awesome networking thing once a month. I'm the man running it. So I'm having business contacts. I'd have my team bring people. So, and then it would work because then the women would be like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like the boss of this town. And I remember Gary Vee said one time, he's like, become the mayor of your own city. 100%. Just by becoming that networker. And that was the game for me. Did you ever run any things like that, or do you still do it?
My whole adult life, I think you should absolutely do it. Look, if I happen to be in Miami for a weekend, I don't need to have a networking function to invite people to meet somebody. I'm not saying that I need it, but I'd also say that if it's your home city, stop being lazy. And as you said, there's always the next thing that you're inviting people to. Look, you know, if I do a party up here, we do some of the best parties in LA up here, right? I used to do parties with my buddy Big Mike. Some of those parties were as high as $500,000 per party.
To host?
Yeah, I mean, we're competing with Hugh Hefner for best party in all of Los Angeles. Big Mike run a company called Advanced Nutrients, and he makes hundreds of millions of dollars. And yeah, it was just absolutely freaking crazy. He put these things on. Me and him were living together for a long time. So the thing is, like, we've always done enormous parties. We've done small little get-togethers, like little kickbacks and stuff like that. I've done them in you know, places like this with the big view in the Hollywood Hills, but I've also done them in small apartments, things like that. Anywhere that you can get it where you're the guest of honor, you know what it also shows people? It shows that you're not just some lazy piece of crap. It's like you're not just, and I'm not saying that anyone doesn't do a party piece of crap. I'm just making the point, like the average person isn't doing anything. So if you could just quickly make your stand out, like at a certain point, people, like the bar has been set so low in society in general that if you're just doing anything, people are like, he's doing something, she's doing something. Like, it's just like, there's just something happening here, right? Which like it doesn't even take much to separate from the pack because the pack is operating at such a coping-based level and a taker-based level.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say I'm completely fed up with where I am in my life. The results I'm getting, I'm stagnant. I can't hold a relationship. I've got no great people around me. I'm a fucking gamer. All this shit. Just
80% of men in today's modern society who have no stake in it whatsoever and have completely given up, yes.
So I'm not going anywhere. I'm living on autopilot, but I'm really ready now. Like, I'm dead set ready. You said at the start, I like to work with people who are absolutely fucking committed and ready to go. So I'm that person now. I'm like, I've had enough of this shit. I'm not ready. Give us the blueprint. Like, what are the steps? What is, if this is me right now, I'm saying, okay, Owen, I'm fucking ready. My life's a mess. I got hardly any money. No girl will hang around me. You know, I got all these friends that have been my friends for ages. I'm pretty sure if I stop gaming with them every weekend, they won't even be my friends. What do I do?
Okay, the first thing I'd say, and I genuinely mean this, is while I am still doing free events, get out to a free event, because you're going to meet other people at free events that are in the same boat as you and then want to take action. So whether it's through your networking groups, my networking groups, any networking group, get around other people, because you become who you hang out with. That's the first step, okay? Got to do it. Like, just get around better people. The second thing that I would recommend to them is realize that you've been the victim of very, very bad propaganda. In other words, a lot of people don't fully understand this, but countries in this day and age don't usually engage in what's called a hot war. They engage in information war, which is basically, can we put propaganda into the public to turn them into victims, to make them hate their own country, to make them lazy, to get it to where, the average woman no longer likes the average man, which then means that the average man no longer has a stake in modern society, right? Because if the average woman no longer likes the average man no longer has a stake in society, which means that he's going to completely give up. And then from there, he's going to go from a thriving-based attempt at life to a coping-based attempt at life, just numbing and medicating themselves. If you look at the food and the food supply, big pharma, the way that the education system is set up, even just like, big lights being put everywhere in the middle of the night and not getting a deep sleep, not taking probiotics, like all these different things. And our understanding of these things is only developing further and further and further, are hurting us, right? Things like media that shifts every 7 seconds instead of like having to have extended focus, not reading long books anymore. The fact that they can get some approximation of sex from porn, even though it's like nothing compared to sex, but people could just take it as like a slave gruel. I personally and I think a lot of your audience would disagree with this a lot, but I personally think marijuana, like, literally is like the devil's lettuce. Like, and I say that, I only say that. Well, I think a lot of people have different opinion, and I respect different opinions, but I would say that because it's not that bad, and the problem is it's not that bad, and so you never stop smoking it. Although Dr. Amen has shown that it does hurt your brain, change your brain, change your life. Look up Dr. Amen. He shows the scans of all these different drugs and what it does. But the point is, like, it's so tempting to just get in that loop where you just kind of smoke every day, and it just kind of numbs you out. Like, the whole point of life is that you should get angry. You should get pissed off. Like, if you're stuck in that position, like, Levels of Energy by Fred Dodson is a great book, or Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins is a great book. The lowest level is apathy. Above, a little bit above that is anger. You're supposed to look at your life, and if your life looks like that, like, you should be extremely pissed off. You should be extremely angry, and that anger should begin to focus the mind and push you in towards, having a sense of will, tapping more into love and peace and enlightenment later. But for now, you should just be freaking pissed off. So I would say that, realize that you've been at the receiving end of everything from a depopulation agenda to an agenda that's designed to implode the West to, horrible social conditioning that's designed to make you not even feel like you have a stake in the future of society at all, not even feeling optimistic about having children or a family. It's meant to demoralize you. It's meant to make you want to self-medicate. It's meant to make you hate your own country. It's meant to make you hate your heritage. And I think that you have to realize, like, it is a propaganda war, and your enemies that hate you, rather than coming in and shooting you or putting a nuke on you, they're just brainwashing you. So realize and look up who's the main guy that talks about that that's so famous? Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov. And look, he's a Soviet KGB defector, and he explains, like, KGB agents, not like James Bond, where they're running around shooting people in like a spy mission. They're just using pollution in the information to demoralize the country. And he basically characterizes what America will look like by 2020, 30 years earlier, and what they're going to do. Right now, it's no longer Russia doing the bulk of that, although they may do some, but a lot of it is other enemies that are doing that. So just realize, like, that apathy, you've been brainwashed. Okay, if you think that you're a victim, you've been brainwashed. If you think that you don't have power or agency, you've been brainwashed. If you're spaced out and feel demoralized, you've been brainwashed. You basically have been tricked. You've been completely duped. You don't realize your power. You have incredible power. You have incredible potential. Human beings have incredible unlocks that can happen in their brain that just unlock huge different capacities. For example, I haven't been sick in 13 years. Look, one of the biggest things that will get you canceled in the world is talking about natural health. So I don't talk about natural health. You want to talk about getting mega canceled, talk about anything other than big pharma. So I don't ever talk about it. I don't teach it. I don't make money from it, but I haven't been sick in 13 years. I'll probably never get sick again. I happen to believe, anecdotally, not with a double-blind study, that is possible for almost anybody, but I don't teach it because you're not allowed to. But that's also part of that larger agenda. So just realize that, not making a medical claim or giving medical advice here, okay? Okay, go see your doctor, get prescribed antibiotic, I guess, but you see my point. So we also don't learn about spiritual growth. We've been turned off of Christianity. We've been turned off of even things like Eckhart Tolle or other sources of wisdom that would give us enlightenment or would give us peace or help us to become present in the moment, not trapped in our head. There's so much that we've been deprived of. You've got to get around the right people, and you've got to start getting replugged back into that. Get out into freaking nature. Start doing that kind of stuff and wake up. That's going to bring you back your passion, your energy, your vitality, your will for life, not being demoralized. It's going to start to unlock parts of your brain. The average person doesn't realize how deeply unconscious they are. They think everybody else is unconscious. Start to realize that you're unconscious. I assume that I'm unconscious, and I've done this work for decades. I assume that I'm unconscious. So, you've got to get back to become a sentient being, not just on autopilot. Look up things like the Milgram experiment. You ever see the Milgram experiment?
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Have you ever talked about it on your channel?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about that. Okay, the short version being that
You should always repeat it though, because there'll be people who haven't seen it, so repeat it.
yeah. So after Hitler got all these people to do these horrifying acts during World War II, they're wondering, well, how was it possible that people were convinced to do that? To become these bad guys. So what they do is they've got this guy in a white lab coat, and they'll pull people off the street, and they'll say, "We're going to electrocute this guy over here. We're going to turn up the nozzle, but don't worry, he'll be fine." Right? And if someone just in a lab coat who has authority just says, "Turn up the nozzle a bit," people will keep turning it up while the person in the room who's an actor is pretending to die and he's screaming like, "Oh, I'm dying!" Right? And the people will say, "I don't think I should turn the nozzle anymore." And then the guy in the white lab coat who has authority because he has an outfit just goes, "No, don't worry, bro. Part of the experiment, bro.
Please continue the
Please
experiment.
continue."
Yeah.
And they do it until they basically kill somebody.
So 100% of people within less than 1 hour went past 250 volts, which is enough to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. And they knew about it as well.
Yes.
So they told them at the start, so this machine goes to 400 volts, 250 volts is enough to kill somebody. And if they ask them before, if you ask a random person, do you think I could convince you to kill somebody within an hour? Like that wasn't threatening you or your family? Everyone would be like, no, I wouldn't kill somebody. Well, they've done hundreds of these versions. Mm-hmm. Every single time, 100% of people go past 250, and about 63% will go all the way to 400 volts, even after there's no consciousness on the other end.
Yeah, and you're from Australia. You watched during 2020 as people that are just out surfing or getting arrested. So so the point is that like people just believe this crap.
The authority bias.
Yes, the authority bias, and look, I'm a little bit naughty, right? And sometimes I like to shoot videos, in like maybe like some like really cool building that's like beautiful to shoot a video in, but I'm not really supposed to be shooting a video there. And in most cases, the security will come up to be like, hey, you can't shoot here. And if I just look at them confidently and go, no, I can, 99 times out of 100, they just go, okay. But one time out of 100, bro, I'll be like, no, I can. The security will look at me and go, no, you can't. Like, are you crazy? And I'm like, good for you, bro. You're the guy that wouldn't have electrocuted someone and killed someone because you could think for yourself. So there's like a couple people that are like that. That's why we need a human awakening project. Like we need a bigger, larger scale human awakening project. Cause otherwise, things like 2020 are going to keep happening because that showed what happens when we're in deep group think. So what I would say is that that would be the first step to just like having that epiphany that like going out and meeting people and socializing. It's not just about getting better social results and getting people to like you. It's a larger quest that you're on about really discovering who you are, what your potential is, waking up, not being demoralized, believing in your future and wanting to share good vibes. Like it's a general underlying frame that's there, and an overarching principle and premise that like life can be cool. You do have value to offer. You can understand social dynamics. You have the capacity to, and you can crush it. Then from there, what I would say is, figure out where the best venues, the best social gatherings in your town are. Now, look, maybe it's at nighttime and people are out, get a little crazy or partying, whatever. Well, just go at least say hi to them because there's a high volume of people there. Go talk to people. Like you said, also, build some kind of a party. Now, obviously, that's harder when no one wants to go to your party. So maybe it starts small. Start posting about it on social media. Start doing that. But just get a lot of time in with talking to other people and try to get up on stages as much as you can and work on public speaking. Make little local groups and do public speaking workshops just on your own. We have all these free groups all over the world where people just go and meet up with each other. They just work on public speaking or they just work on social skills. So you have to make a decision to do this as a part of a larger quest that you're on.
Yeah. I want to know what's been your biggest like meltdown or setback, biggest challenge you've gone through in your career, and how did you move through that?
I would say the single hardest part for me in my career that like I've struggled with is I have been able to see a side of human nature that I never wanted to see and that I feel that most people shouldn't be exposed to. And that's why I believe so much in Christianity, because it's a spirituality of forgiveness. But the base level thing that I understand is this, that a lot of people don't want to understand, okay? So if you look up this topic, look up RAS, which is reticular activation system, okay? That is your selective focus. And what the mind is doing is it's always reframing and deleting and distorting things, doing it all the time. You got to be aware that you're doing it, everybody's doing it. So if you like somebody, okay, if you see them as having value, your brain will erase their bad characteristics and it will over amplify their good characteristics, okay? But if you dislike someone, if they don't have value to you, the mind will over amplify bad characteristics and it will erase the good characteristics, right? So you might have been in a relationship at some point in your life, and maybe you had in your case, a girl, but it could be a girl watching this that had a boyfriend or husband. And let's say that your ex like loved you to death. Like she was in love with you. You are my everything. I love you, all that. And at that point that she met you, you had a lot of value in her eyes. Well, then let's say that over time, you started bickering and you were like, you just gradually became depedestalized. In her eyes, initially she viewed you as someone whose time is scarce. She's lucky to get your time. It's kind of an exciting thing for her. It's a big deal. But then over time, you become very commonplace. Familiarity breeds contempt. She couldn't see you in the same way that other people who don't have access to you see you. It's almost like owning a nice watch, or a nice car. At first you get it, you're excited about it, but by the time that you own it, you're kind of bored of it. So now you kind of get depedestalized. And I think this can happen to women or men. Well, what will often happen is that, say that your girl wants to leave you, rather than just saying, you know what, like, I'm just over this, but I still do love you and I still care about you, oftentimes what happens is that they feel guilty about it. So they do what's called an RS flip. And they will forget about all the good things that happen. And they will overemphasize anything bad. So you could have done 1,000 good things and 5 things that you regret. But all their mind will do is loop on the things that you regret. That's all their mind will do. Whereas before, you could have not even necessarily even been that nice. But if you had the value, they would focus on just a couple of good things you did, right? That's why the joke, some people will joke that women like assholes, as an example, right? And that joke comes from the fact that that guy has a lot of value, even if he's a big jerk. But, he like winked at a baby 6 months ago. It's like, he winked at a baby, right? It's like they focus on that one thing. They ignore all the other bad stuff. So the same thing goes with attraction as goes with money as well, where if somebody could benefit from ripping you off, or if somebody could benefit from scamming you or backstabbing you, they'll use the human mind is built in a way where it will generate an RS flip and it will make the person justify doing it. So every single person that's stolen from you probably thought that you were the bad guy and they were actually right or wrong in order to steal from you. Every single person that's ever cheated on you thought that you were being the bad guy and then it was just good to cheat on you. When in reality, it was actually selfishly beneficial to them. So the hard thing I think in learning social skills is the realization that if you don't have value to somebody, in a case where the relationship is somewhat transactional, their perception of you is changing and the relationship is truly not genuine. And that is where you'll begin to sort of fetishize any kind of genuine connection with somebody who's not just on autopilot, but somebody who's actually sentient, meeting other people that are not just on autopilot, not the kind of people that would turn the nozzle in the Milgram experiment, but actually real sentient people who are actually genuinely present and actually appreciate you, not for what they're getting from you, but because they say, you know what, we live in this really empty galaxy. There's another sentient human being, and they see what values you have, and they get to know you, and they actually choose to extend their sense of self to include you in that circle of concerns. Like they're concerned about themselves, and now they're concerned about you, not because of performance, but because of who you actually are. That's a beautiful place to get to. The hard part is that as you get better at bringing people in transactionally, you'll have the epiphany that, wait a minute, be careful what you're bargaining for. Be careful what it is that you're doing. because you are surrounding yourself with people that are kind of just getting value from you. And that's not necessarily like a genuine relationship, but the way that it will be framed is like it is. Like on the surface, it will look very, very genuine. Like it looks, okay, like I'll be real with you here, okay? I can't tell you how many times my career has been up and down. And like in the same way that me and you are hanging out now, like we've been, you know, we've done some great dinners together. We've hung out at our parties together. We've had a great time. I've had many situations where, you know, when I'm on top, everybody wants to go do that. But then, and I'm sure that you've experienced this as well in your life and your career too. But when you're at the bottom, you know, say that you have like, you know, some bad media articles come out or people lie about you or, you know, your business kind of falls off for a bit or you have a hard time. And it's amazing how empty those phones go, bro. And, you know, or your girl leaves you or, you know, things like that. And you go, wow, like I'm really discovering who actually cared about me and who didn't. And it's very eye-opening. And because I had a lot of ups and downs, I got to separate the wheat from the chaff and seeing who those people are. Now, the problem what a lot of people do is they hear this and then they want to kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater. And they say, well, if that's the case, then I'm just only being around people who like me for the real me and, you know, and stuff like that. And they don't even try to learn any social skills. But then basically what winds up happening is just like you and your one knucklehead friend, like living in your basement, you know, right? Because you have to realize that initially people, when you reach out to them, especially people with low bandwidth and who have a lot going on, it may be a little bit more transactional, but over time, it can become genuine as you progress, right? But it's almost like as if, you know, you went to see a movie. Initially, you just looked at the poster. You don't know much about it. You looked at the preview, but later it actually becomes your favorite movie in the world. So I think like that's probably the hardest part about learning social skills is learning where that line is of somebody who just likes you because of the dynamic that you create or something they want versus somebody who actually cares about you as a person. And then not being bitter just because you have a more transactional friendships or relationships because you can actually benefit from those too. I have plenty of friends who like, you know, we don't sit there crying in each other's arms all night, but I gain value from them. They gain value from me. But see, I understand that that's more transactional. So I understand how to approach that situation, which basically I just think I add value to them. They add value to me. It's win-win. And as long as I know that that's the kind of relationship that it is, I'm going to appreciate it for what it is. And I might even like that person, but just recognize that maybe we just don't have the time to build a real friendship right now, you know, or maybe they don't have the capacity for it, but there's still a good exchange. And then from there, you're looking for those very, very rare people that you might have a genuine connection with. And over time, you can find that. And I think that every guy, if he wants to have children with a woman or girl want to have children with a guy, you should try to seek that out. And I'd say also that if you have genuine friends like that, you should surround yourself with people like that. But don't be so stubborn that you're like, no, I refuse to learn any kind of social skills because I'm going to get used. It's like, if no one's trying to use you, relax, take it easy, Tiger. Like no one's trying to use you right now. But at the same, so, you know, so learning how to have those social skills, but then distinguishing like, yes, I'm bringing a ton of new people in my life, but you know, they're kind of there for a reason at this point and knowing who is who.
All right. So to almost bring this to a close, I want to ask you both the exact same question. Okay. Who should answer first?
Her.
All right. Via. So what is one thing that you really wish men today started doing and did more of? Something that they could probably even take action on immediately.
Okay, that's a great question. So I would just start and say a lot of men out there are too focused on gaining approval. Getting approval from the outside, right? When I think that what's truly important is building up who you are as a person. So Owen mentioned this earlier. If you can get out into nature, if you can get out and work on your social skills, whether that be like what you mentioned earlier, like going to the grocery store and just interacting with people at the grocery store, not trying to get something out of them, but just trying to build up your experience. If you can do that, if you can start reading, actually gain some knowledge, not with the intention of gaining something out of that woman that you approach, but with the intention of adding some kind of value to her life. Mm-hmm. If you can become valuable within yourself as a person and then approach somebody, I can assure you they're going to feel that, they're going to recognize that. And even if you don't have a particular relationship that goes to a more intimate space with that individual, at least you've already formed a sense of value that they can sense within you, and you could go so far just with that, you know. I think that is something that a lot of men are lacking now, is that understanding.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. All right, Owen, What's one thing that you wish more men either were aware of or did and could preferably start doing immediately?
I think that people are looking for any excuse in the world to avoid going to say hi to somebody.
I'll just say hi to someone. Yeah.
They will, even this interview, you'll see people that are, having some crazy negative reaction. And maybe it was something valid, certainly could be. I'm not perfect. But more so, they're just afraid to go talk to somebody. So people will make any excuse in the world to avoid just saying hi. And on the other side of hi is all the glory, okay? The kind of adventures that you could have, the kind of money that you could make, the kind of connections that you could experience, the kind of amazing opportunities that open up to you occur when you're willing to put yourself out there. So what I would just say is be willing to put yourself out there. Stop being so focused on what you're going to lose, like the hit to your ego if it doesn't go well, and focus more on what the amazing things that happen on the other side of that process.
Amazing. All right. So where can everybody find you on social media and maybe even come along to one of your events if they're out here in America?
What I say is I put out several hour-long videos that have a lot of budget put into them and money put into them, all for free on YouTube. So go to Owen Cook Self-Help, Owen Cook Free Tour. Just go and watch. Just start watching, okay? But likewise, yeah, we do free events. I do them all over the States. My team does them all over the world. Selfhelpfreetour.com is a great place to find that. Just look in the links in my videos, you'll find it. And those are several-day free events. People cry at these things, like cry their eyes out because they have incredible transformation. And it's something that if you just come and experience and actually network with the other people there, you get such an incredible family-type environment. It's a beautiful thing.
Awesome. Okay, final question for you. If you were to go back to your 18-year-old self and give him 30 seconds of advice, what would it be?
Start saying hi to people right now. Go. Just start. Just start.